You ever had that feeling like two people shake hands, smile for the cameras, and the moment lights go off, one stabs the other in the back? Yeah, that's what the so-called ceasefire between Israel and Hamas looks like right now. Because while the headlines say peace deal, the ground reports scream trap deal. Israel and America, two allies, one strategy, and 1,900 prisoners freed. But what if I told you the real plan was never peace? It was about timing, optics, and control. So here's what went down. A temporary ceasefire was announced. Hamas released around 1,900 hostages. Yes, human lives traded like chess pieces. In return, Israel was supposed to halt attacks, allow aid, and negotiate. But within hours, news broke. 6 Palestinians killed during ceasefire. Wait, what? You call that a truce or target practice? Even international media started questioning it, because how do you justify violence during peacetime? And the Israeli military's response? Oh, they were threats. Right, everyone's a threat when your finger's on the trigger. Now here's where it gets interesting and a little sinister. Multiple reports suggest that Israel and the US had already planned the ceasefire not as peace but as pause. A tactical break to regroup, not reconcile. Why? Because it allowed Israel to achieve 2 goals. 1. Get their people, the hostages, back. 2. Use the time to rebuild military readiness for the next phase. And the US? It got to play peacekeeper on TV, while quietly backing military strikes in Gaza and even beyond. You see the pattern. Every time Washington says we stand for peace, somewhere someone's getting bombed. Now let's talk about those prisoners who were freed. The 1,967 Palestinians who walked out after decades behind bars. These weren't just political pawns. They were people who spent 20 to 25 years in Israeli prisons, tortured, silenced, and forgotten. One man said, "They laughed when I screamed in pain. They said our suffering was entertainment." Think about that. 2 decades behind bars for existing, and now released not because justice was served, but because leverage was needed. And still, over 10,000 Palestinians remain in prison. That's not freedom. That's a hostage swap dressed up as diplomacy. Now let's bring in the wild card, Donald Trump. This man was praising Hamas's tactical brilliance one week, and the next, threatening them with military destruction. Classic Trump move. Praise, provoke, profit. In a CBS interview, he said, "We agreed to give peace a chance. But sure is a fine print that peace only exists if Hamas behaves, if hostages are returned, and the US gets control of the next steps. Translation, play by our rules or we'll rewrite the game." So what's Trump's peace plan? A 20-point agenda that sounds more like a corporate deal than a humanitarian one. It's not ceasefire, it's cease until we say so. And the world? Oh, the world isn't silent anymore. Iran called out the violations, saying if America, Egypt, Qatar, and Turkey are the so-called guarantors, why is Israel still bombing Gaza? Good question. If the referees are playing for one team, what kind of game is this? Spain stepped in too and said clearly, ceasefire doesn't give Israel immunity for genocide. Even Indonesia refused to let Israeli athletes participate in world championships. Their message loud and clear. You can't kill on Monday and compete on Friday. And Italy, during a football qualifier, literally crushed Israel 3-0. While outside the stadium, protesters filled the streets chanting "Free Palestine." When your football loss feels like a global metaphor, you know it's bad. And while all this was happening, the UN and global press groups slammed Israel for denying journalists access to Gaza. That's right. Even in a peace zone, media is banned. Because truth, my friends, is the most dangerous weapon of all. If cameras were allowed inside Gaza, the world would see what's really happening. Cities reduced to dust, families searching through rubble for bodies, and 8 trucks stopped at checkpoints because someone decided timing isn't right. This isn't security, it's censorship, and it's been happening in plain sight. Now here's the part nobody wants to talk about, the Gray Zone Report. On June 13, investigative journalists revealed something explosive. A secret underground U.S.-Israel military bunker under Tel Aviv, known as Site 81, hit by an Iranian strike. Let that sink in. While the world was watching Gaza, Iran allegedly struck an American base inside Israel. And that's when the narrative flipped overnight. Suddenly, US media started pushing Iran is escalating tensions. No one asked, why was there a secret giant base in the first place? Because apparently, peacekeeping now includes building underground military stations under skyscrapers. So much for transparency. At this point, we got to ask, if ceasefire means more bombing and peace talks mean more leverage, what's the end game? For Israel, dominance. For the US, control. For Palestinians, survival. The UN says it will take decades to rebuild Gaza. That's not rebuilding, that's resetting humanity back to zero. And yet, leaders stand on podiums talking about progress. Progress for who? Because the only thing moving forward is the death toll. So here's the twist nobody on prime time wants to admit. The ceasefire wasn't broken. It was designed to break. Think about it. By linking peace to the recovery of bodies, Israel and the US ensured that the process would drag forever. You can't find bodies under rubble that hasn't been cleared. You can't clear rubble while bombs are still falling. And you can't call it peace when one side controls the pause button. It's not a ceasefire. It's a cease until the next strike. Here's the thing. History doesn't repeat itself. It just reloads. We have seen this play before. Temporary truce, strategic patience, peace negotiations. All just rebranded ways of saying, we'll shove when we have taken enough. The question isn't whether Israel and America can end this war. It's whether they want to. Because right now, every deal feels like deception, every pause feels like pressure, and every statement of peace feels like a cover of destruction. So maybe it's time we stop celebrating ceasefires and start demanding accountability. Because peace isn't just the absence of bombs, it's the presence of justice. The world doesn't need another ceasefire, it needs an awakening. I'm Mazhar, and this is the real story behind the ceasefire. Hit the like button, do share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel for more such videos. Thank you for watching.